This story starts like any regular school day, with two girls gossiping about God knows what when they suddenly bumped into a guy whose face screams emotional damage. His deadpan stare alone frightened the life out of them, and had then speed walking the opposite direction. The dude with the scary face, that's Mihiro, our gloomy, misunderstood protagonist, whom everyone found creepy because of his deadpan face. Mihiro had always been a loner nobody talked to. His only true companions were animals, and he loved tending to those in the pen near his home. He fed them and cared for them diligently, and in return, the animals adored him. Despite his inability to connect with people, animals somehow flocked to him with a mysterious affection that no one could explain. The pen surrounded with animals was like his kingdom, the only place Mihiro truly felt at home. So deep was his bond with animals, just like Dr. Dolittle, that his greatest desire was to one day be surrounded by animals or find a world filled with creatures where he could truly belong. Well, the universe heard him loud and clear because one afternoon, while tending to the animals, Mihiro suddenly heard a strange splash coming from the nearby pond. Curious, he walked over to investigate and discovered a squid with its tentacles wounded. As he reached out to help, the squid suddenly recoiled and leapt back into the water. Thinking little of it, Mihiro decided to head home and take out the trash from the day before. But before he could take another step, the same squid emerged again, now monstrously enlarged. In one swift motion, the giant squid seized Mihiro and pulled him into the pond. Terrified, Mihiro believed his life was over. All he had ever wished for was a place where he belonged, and now he was certain he would die without ever finding it. To his surprise, when he opened his eyes, Mihiro found himself not underwater, but in a vast, run-down throne room. Confused, he looked around, trying to comprehend where he had ended up. Suddenly, the enormous squid appeared again, looming behind him. Paralyzed by fear, Mihiro braced himself to be eaten as a midday snack. But just as the creature opened its mouth, a soft female voice echoed, calling Mihiro the Demon Lord. From within the squid's gaping jaws, a human-like hand emerged. Also, within a matter of seconds, the monstrous squid transformed into a busty monster girl who introduced herself as Sepia. Mihiro, in shock, could not believe the real-life film trick happening before his very eyes. However, before he could even grasp what was happening, Sepia embraced him. Sepia called him Demon Lord for the second time, and then mentioned she was glad that he was safe. Wrapping her arms around him, Sepia explained that she had been searching for Mihiro for a very long time and was overjoyed to have finally found him. Still stunned, Mihiro couldn't make sense of what he was hearing. Was this some elaborate cosplay? A dream? None of it made sense. But before he could question it further, 3 adventurers burst into the palace, weapons drawn, demanding to know if Mihiro was the new Demon King. They had come to slay him. Sepia, standing just beside Mihiro, was beyond irritated. She could not believe that the hunters would show up at the demon castle at such a crucial time. Annoyed, she whipped out her fork-shaped lance and accused the adventurers of repeatedly violating the demon castle. This time, however, she vowed would be their last. Without hesitation, she attacked the adventurers. Battle erupted. Blades clashed, magic flashed, and all the while, Mihiro stood frozen, utterly clueless about who he was, where he was, or what the heck was even going on. In the heat of the battle, Sepia fiercely vowed that she would never again let their home be stolen by humans. The word "their home" caught Mihiro's attention, making him wonder who she was referring to. After a brief clash of weapons here and there, Sepia eventually ran out of magical powers and got overwhelmed by the adventurers. Just as the hunters were about to strike the final blow, a towering ogre suddenly appeared and sent the enemies flying. Seeing Sepia weakened, Mihiro rushed to her side and asked if she was all right. Sepia explained that she was, but then sadly apologized that her strength at that moment would not be enough to defeat the demon hunters. Then, with an awkward pause, Sepia suddenly showed Mihiro her soft back cheeks. She explained she could recover her magic by receiving energy through her magic core, and the only way to activate it was through Mihiro's touch. Embarrassed, Mihiro froze. Sepia reminded him that when he had touched her back in the human world, she'd felt a sudden burst of strength. Desperate, Sepia pleaded with him to do it again. Mihiro stared at his hands in disbelief. Could it be true that by simply touching animals, he could recharge them? It all sounded insane. But before he knew it, Sepia pulled him in and urged him to act quickly and stop hesitating. Wanting to protect the only place someone had ever called home, Mihiro agreed. He placed his hands around her waist, making Sepia scream in excitement. Sepia let out a mixture of surprise and delight. feeling an overwhelming surge of power through her body. As Mihiro continued, she wrapped him tightly in her tentacles, with her aura growing stronger by the second. At that moment, Sepia became stronger, and just by seeing the intense magical energy she emitted, the adventurers fled in terror. With the battle over, Sepia thanked Mihiro for driving away the hunters. Mihiro replied that he was just glad she could protect her home. But Sepia warned him not to relax, and then revealed that more adventurers would come from time to time. Sepia revealed that the only way they would defend the demon castle against the adventurer was if they restored back the demon army by scouting for a lot of demons. Until now, everyone had avoided Mohiro, but for the first time in his life, Mohiro had made someone happy, and that made him feel like he was needed. Despite the confusion, the madness, and the unknowns ahead, Mihiro felt something he'd never felt before: purpose. Maybe, just maybe, this strange, chaotic world was the place he had been searching for all along. Moments later, Sepia decided to show Mihiro around the demon castle. As they walked side by side through its dark corridors, Mihiro quietly observed his surroundings. The towering Gothic architecture, it all reminded him of a video game. But unlike a game, this world was now his reality. Tough pill to swallow, so the dude kept his mouth shut. Sepia, noticing his silence, turned toward him with a worried look. She asked if anything was wrong. Mihiro quickly shook his head and said everything was fine. Hoping to lighten the mood, Sepia cheerfully commented on how composed Mihiro had been during the earlier attack by the hunters. She said it was impressive how, like a true demon king, Mihiro possessed overwhelming charisma and superior magical power. As she continued praising him, Mihiro lowered his gaze. He considered telling her the truth that he was no demon king, just a gloomy shut-in with zero riz, zero mana, and a face only a mother could love. But the words caught in his throat. Yet, he hesitated, recalling a painful memory from his past. Back in his old world, Mihiro once tried to join a group of kids playing soccer. He had spent weeks watching from afar, always too scared to approach. But one day, he decided to change. He walked up to them, gathered all his courage, and asked if he could join. However, the kids looked him up and down, saw the sad aura, the unbuffed face, and coldly walked away. That moment stayed with him for the rest of his life. After that, Mihiro stopped trying to stand out. He learned to blend in to avoid rejection by becoming invisible. And now, walking in a demon castle with a monster girl who truly believed in him, Mihiro made a choice. If pretending to be the demon king was the only way to survive, then that's who he would be. As they continued through the castle, Mihiro suddenly felt something sticky cling to his leg. Before he could react, some spider monster chick suddenly appeared from nowhere. She looked at Sepia, then at Mihiro, and asked if Mihiro was an intruder. Sepia's eyes widened. Yeah, she knew this one. Her name was Vina. But before any explanations could happen, Vina insisted they squash Mihiro like a bug, while he was webbed up like a piñata. Meanwhile, Mihiro, caught in the web trap and hanging upside down, was stunned to discover there were other monsters in the castle aside from Sepia. Sepia quickly raised her voice. She told Vina to chill because Mihiro was the demon king and to let him go immediately. But Vina didn't comply. Instead, she stepped closer, eyes filled with doubt. She couldn't believe that a plain, scrawny boy like Mihiro was their king. Even after Sepia insisted, Vina refused to accept it without proof. While Mihiro remained dangling, Sepia assured Vina that she had felt his magical presence. Sepia repeated that she couldn't possibly be mistaken. But Vina still didn't budge. She said that no one else in the demon realm would believe it either. They needed solid proof. Sepia tried again. She emphasized how powerful Mihiro's mana had felt, unlike anything she had sensed before. But Vina stood firm, declaring that the arrogant, powerful demon lord could not possibly be a weak-looking human. Before the argument could continue, both of them suddenly noticed that Mihiro had passed out. Moments later, Mihiro awoke to find himself lying in a bed. He looked up, noticing an unfamiliar ceiling, and questioned where he was. Observing the spacious room, he wondered if it was someone's bedroom. As he rose from the bed, a voice asked if he was finally awake. It was Vina who irritably remarked that it would have been better if he had drifted to the afterlife instead of waking. Mihiro immediately recognized her. It was the spider girl, but before he could say anything, Vina stepped forward and explained that he'd fainted from hanging upside down too long. Like the fragile little human he was. Then, without warning, Vina webbed him again, got all up in his space, and said if he moved, she'd end him. Terrified, Mihiro froze in bed as Vina vowed to expose him for the fraud he was. Vina still couldn't wrap her head around why Sepia thought the little dweeb was their king. It was laughable. Vina went on, saying that after Mihiro collapsed, Sepia had completely panicked and caused a scene. The only way to calm her down was to lock Mihiro in her room for safekeeping. Then, Vina shared something unexpected. Vina speculated that the reason Sepia was so attached to the Demon Lord was because she had been taken in when she was little and raised by the Demon Lord himself. This had made Sepia become so gullible and would believe whatever the Demon Lord said. However, Vina revealed that one day, without warning, the Demon King suddenly disappeared. He never explained, never looked back, and ever since then, they had waited for his return. At that moment, Mihiro, who had been silent out of fear, finally spoke. He asked if Vina was like Sepia. For some reason, Vina froze in shock. Her eyes widened, and her entire expression changed. She demanded to know if Mihiro was using some kind of mind-reading magic. When Mihiro, flustered, tried to explain that he possessed no such ability, Vina wasn't convinced. She strongly demanded to know how he knew something she had never shared with anyone. Mohira fell silent. For a brief moment, he pondered carefully. He knew whatever word came out of his mouth better be convincing enough to gain Vina's trust. At the same time, a deep sense of guilt weighed on him. He regretted deceiving the girls and knew it had been selfish to keep pretending he was the Demon King. But before he could say anything, the door came crashing down. Sepia burst into the room, fork-thong weapon in hand, having broken through the lock by force. She rushed to Mohira and asked if he was okay. Without waiting for a response, she grabbed his hand tightly and apologized for breaking the door, explaining that she'd been worried sick about him. However, as Sepia showed her concern, Vina's got irritated. She insisted that Sepia leave Mohira alone. Watching how distressed Sepia was, Vina's expression darkened. Enraged, she declared that she would dispose of Mohira right then and there. But Sepia shouted, begging her to stop. At that moment, Mohira couldn't bear the sight of the two girls fighting over a lie. He hated every second of it. With that, he made a firm decision to tell them the truth. So he raised his voice and confessed that he was not the Demon King. The room fell into an eerie silence. Mohira continued, apologizing for deceiving them. He explained that he didn't have the Demon King's memories as Sepia had hoped, nor the combat skills they expected. He was just some regular dude. Still, meeting them had changed his life. For the first time, he had something to fight for. From that day on, he wanted to do his best to help them. As soon as the words left his mouth, Mohira's face turned red. He grabbed the bedsheet and pulled it in embarrassment, thinking everything he said sounded more like rubbish and insane. Vina wasn't amused. She called him a dummy and said anyone that corny deserved to be beaten to a pulp. But even as she voiced her frustration, something made her pause. Vina decided to give Mohira one last chance to prove himself to be the Demon King. To do that, she spread her legs, revealing her floodgates, and told Mohira to touch her magic core. Mohira froze instantly. The sight of the sus pose left Mohira paralyzed. My man's soul left his body. Vina questioned why he was hesitating, and then revealed that Sepia had told her something. Vina said Sepia had told her that if Mohira touched her core, it would trigger a powerful burst of magic. So, based on that result, she would know whether or not he was truly the Demon King. With no other choice, Mohira slowly reached out and placed his palm on her core. Suddenly, a radiant light began to shine. Immediately, Vina felt a strange surge of energy rushing through her body like she just drank 5 cans of Red Bull. Her eyes widened. This magic, this overwhelming force, it felt just like the Demon King's power. While feeling all kinds of emotions, Vina couldn't understand how a weak human like Mohira could wield such power. The sensation from her core grew more intense. Suddenly, from deep within her body, thick spider webs burst outward, wrapping around Mohira and pinning him to the wall. Vina held the threads in her hand and realized their strength and viscosity had doubled. It could only mean one thing. The Demon King's power had awakened. Lowering her head in shame, Vina let out a frustrated sigh. As much as she hated it, she had no choice but to acknowledge Mohira as the Demon King. However, she quickly added that trust was another matter. Even if she accepted him, she wasn't ready to believe in him completely. Deep down, Vina felt a lingering fear. If Mohira truly was the Demon King, then the moment his memories returned, it could spell disaster. So she decided that it was best she observed Moraha for the time being. As Vina helped free Mohira from the spider web, Sepia approached. With a soft smile, she told him that it didn't matter whether he had his memories or not. She believed he was the Demon King, and for that reason, she wanted to work with him. Nervously, Mohira agreed, and they shook hands. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a mysterious dragon girl stood triumphantly over a pile of defeated goblins. In that instant, she suddenly sensed the overwhelming burst of Demon Lord power. Her heart raced. This made the dragon girl overly excited that the Demon Lord had finally returned. Who is this dragon girl, and what relationship does she have with the Demon Lord? If you're eager to find out in our part 2, give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. As always, thanks for watching.